You're welcome to Business Daily on Trust TV. My name is Chamun Dabeng. Let's talk numbers. We're starting off with the market this morning. You're welcome back, and once again, my name is Chamun Dabeng. The show today is a continuation of what we began yesterday on the ease of doing business in Nigeria. SMEs contribute 48% of the national GDP. They account for 96% of businesses and 84% of employment nationwide. The latest figures from the National Bureau of Statistics, NBS, show that there are over 39.6 million MSMEs in Nigeria. So as you can see, small businesses are the lifeline of many Nigerians. Looking at how important this sector is to Nigeria as a whole, it is important to have these discussions until we start to see a change in the country. As many people may know, the odds stacked against businesses are quite high, from forex, policies, multiple taxation, insecurity, and much more. Joining me on the show today to round up the discussion that we began is Agaba Wilson Agaba, and he's a business consultant and political economist at Defolarin Olamileko. Now, before we go on to listen to the comments of my guests, let's listen to the people. We went out to talk to our fellow Nigerians and entrepreneurs and asked them what their own experience was in running their businesses. We asked them questions on their highest expense, the process for the registration, and basically how they see running a business in Nigeria as a whole. So let's take a look at that.
Business is actually moving, but the problem is that the environment is somehow hard for business to start. For the starters, it's very hard. But if you're in business for a long period of time, at least you have the opportunity that you've been in the business for long, and you have the capacity to move on. But those that are starting now, it's very hard for them to start. Looking at the economic crisis we have in the country, dollar is always going up, and if like you buy a product of like 10 million, now if you go back to buy another product, your capacity is going to be less. If you be able to buy like 10 product, now you have to buy at least like 5.
No, you know, the issue is that now the production cost, no matter how the logic you use, you end up taking our product in a high cost to the consumers, which they always complain about it, or your services.
Business environment in Nigeria is not friendly at all. Like right now, it's not friendly, because if you've been in business for long, you should know when it was good compared to now. Before this time around, the dollar rate used to be very good, but for the past 4 years, 5 years, that the dollar has been going up and down. You know, it moved from 200, 300, 400, 500, and above 500 now. So it has never been smooth with business owners, because as a business owner, you need, even to access, like some of us that does importation, even to access the dollar alone is a problem. So you go through the back to get dollar at a very higher rate. Then you buy this good, you bring them again, and the people, your customers, their capacity their spending capacity is still very low because of prevailing economic conditions, low salary, etc. So even purchases are low, while expenditures are going high, but purchases are low. So in general, business environment right now is not very favorable.
All right, you're welcome back. You got to listen to some Nigerians talk about their own personal experience. Now, to my guests in the studio, what do you think about the responses that we received from Nigerians out there, entrepreneurs, people who are trying to do their day-to-day businesses? Let me start off with you, Mr. Wilson, as a business consultant.
Yeah, I say that I think almost all the people interviewed are into buying and selling.
Mm-hmm.
And that kind of skewed the interview because their experience will be different from those who manufacture.
Yeah.
From raw materials to finished products and all of that. But generally, our business environment is still not as friendly as it should be. Earlier on, when we were talking about the World Bank Ease of Doing Business indicators,
Mm-hmm.
There are some components that you have what time it takes you to register a company,
Mm-hmm.
what time it takes you to register a property, what times it takes you to issues of solvency, resolving insolvency, access to finance, access to electricity, and all of these things, paying tax, you know. They are vital indices. They measure a lot because I did a research on that, I think about 2 months ago. And I read deep into the whole ease of doing business. But basically, there are also very critical issues that it doesn't capture. Whereas we focus on paying tax,
Mm-hmm.
it doesn't talk about multiple taxation.
Of course.
That kills SMEs in Nigeria. Whereas it talks about ease of registering a property, it doesn't talk about acquiring the property, which is also an issue. So you see, we have our own peculiar problems that are challenging our SMEs. And over the time we have been shouting, and it doesn't seem like anybody listens to us.
Mm-hmm.
In fact, off the camera, he was talking to me about how we can come together and have a forum that allows us to put more pressures on people in government to pursue policies that affect these things that are biting each and every one of us on a daily basis. I have said it time without number that the SMEs are contributing so much to our economy that no government should play with them. And every startup business must be onboarded to a platform and helped to grow. We must have that platform. If we don't have it, and not the type that we just have by name, mm-hmm. we set up something, maybe we say Smedan, or mm-hmm. with that, and then that's just it.
And all them.
But what are we doing to reach the actual people who are doing business? So the environment is still quite difficult mm-hmm. for SMEs.
Mm-hmm. All right, so looking at the figures you were earlier trying to bring up, now according to the latest World Bank annual ratings, Nigeria is presently ranked 131st among 190 world economies in the ease of doing business. Now we have a score of 56.9%, pardon me, 56.9. What are your thoughts on these figures, and do you see things getting better any soon, Mr. Adefolari?
Based on what Mr. Wilson just said now, and from reaction of the people interviewed out there, the reaction has been that it has always been just that negative aspect of the environment of our business in Nigeria. And going further into this discussion will take us back to as early as 1999. We have always been in the ranks of the hundreds. Mm-hmm. When time World Bank brings out this kind of figures, always been in that rank. Mm-hmm. And over the years, major issues, environmental issues that normally make business entity to struggle in Nigeria, I'll also be on the issues that were always pointed out on this platform, another platform. It has to do with multiple taxation, it has to do with government negligence. Although over the past 5 years, we have seen a great change mm-hmm. that comes as in form of intervention from the government. Mm-hmm. But that intervention has always been a one that is one-sided. It doesn't go around to take care of the major SMEs in Nigeria. Mm-hmm. Take, for instance, those people that interview, most of them may be shop owners. But behind those people that we are interviewing, you see people with wheelbarrow having goods on their wheelbarrow. How much of government intervention goes to those kind of people? These are the people that bring the end product to household. But government intervention doesn't go to them. Now, the ones that government intervention normally goes to, maybe in the agricultural sector, maybe in the manufacturing sector. But the end product, the people that really take these goods down to the household, the government intervention doesn't go to. Those are the people that normally complain that tax force is running after them, multiple taxation is running after them, local government is running after them. And at the end of the day, these are the people that, when they now pull out of that business environment, they go back home and become unemployed. And these are the people that be open up that insecurity merchant can take advantage of, recruit them into insecurity businesses, and they become bandit or kidnapper at the end of the day. So in my own estimation, these figures has always been with us. Changing it will take a drastic government policy action. And one of the ways, just like Mr. Wilson said when in his own discussion, we are discussing that how can we have a forum that can push forward? We have had forums from the Democracy and Election Group, coalition civil society, pushing government to do the right thing when it comes to election, democracy. But in terms of the economic aspect, we don't have that group that normally push government to do the right thing. So this is an opportunity for us to push that kind of forum into the government circle so that we can have a good impact on our SMEs, especially not just political SMEs, political people that normally go to Sweden and the rest of them to collect intervention, but the right people that this intervention can get to, and that is the way forward.
All right, so basing my next question off of what you have just said, now there is a research out there stating that we do have over 39.6 million SMEs in Nigeria right now, but only 34.4% million of those businesses are actually operating informally, actually. Yes, they're operating informally. So that's a very few number of businesses that are actually operating formally in Nigeria, meaning that the government has actually missed out a huge amount of tax revenue generation from that area because they cannot regulate the informal businesses. Now, looking at what you've just brought up, now, are these factors that are contributing to Nigerians basically shying away from operating as a formal SME in Nigeria?
In essence, those ones out of that, when we want to group this kind of SME, we have the formal one, we have the informal one. The majority of them are in the informal sector, whereby they don't have data to capture them. Even though the data they brought out may not be limited in a sense, they may be more than that. They may run into 80s or 100 million. But the issue is this: the way government normally throw out its interventional program to address issues of SMEs in Nigeria is very limited. It's only capture those ones that that comes in the form of political grouping. That's where I see it. Come in the form of political grouping. Those ones that CBN and the rest of them can really capture, that can go through the formal ways of registering or getting them online and the rest of them. But the ones that are in the local setting, they don't get to them. There's a group, an informal association of Nigeria. I don't know how much they are doing to bring together all their members. Maybe people in the saloon business, people in the buying and selling in food business. I don't know much of what they are doing. But as you rightly ask, how can these challenges they are having, how can it be resolved? Either through government intervention or through other means. As I said earlier, it has to be a drastic practical policy. And that drastic practical policy has to come from a genuine, sincere mind of the implementer. Because as far as I'm concerned, if the implementer are not ready to do it the right way, the problem will remain. Either in power, either in security, either in infrastructure, either in the collection of these multiple taxes. I understand that some states have tried to harmonize their multiple taxation. Like national state, for example, harmonize their multiple taxation. You don't see people, local government going anywhere to collect tax. It's just one single way. I don't know much of other states. So at the federal level, we know the federal inland revenue is one doing it. But FCT also have to come in with this another state in respect.
All right, Mr. Wilson.
You see, what we need is a comprehensive integration system. A system that has different tiers, just like we have different tiers of government. From the federal to the states to the local government, and all of them need to work. So that if I want to sell okpa, there's a place I can easily walk to and say, I want to sell okpa. Give me a form to fill. So that I'll be known as somebody who sells okpa. And I will not be asked to pay money. Instead, I will be taken to a class where people who sell okpa should learn about the hygiene of okpa, the
business aspect of
okpa, the food aspect of okpa, and all of that for free. You see, that way you have incentive. And then this person is given an allocated place to stay. And then the person is groomed over time. And then when you get to a certain point, you can now say, okay, you can pay this particular tax. As you grow, you can pay this tax. And then you expose them to common opportunities that they can work with. I see that when they were doing the school feeding programs, what we did is to start recruiting cooks to take food and go and cook and take. But if we had something like this, those people who were already doing, whether mama put or small restaurant and all of that, they have the items to do these things. They have the competitive advantage to cook this food at a cheaper rate. Why don't you take them at their location and just engage them? If you have details, it means this money can be checked, it can be appraised, and all of that. These are people who probably would have been taught. So what we need is a system that comprehensively onboard these people at several levels and give them incentive to do the right thing. If doing the right thing is difficult, people are always going to cut corner. And that is why I say a lot of people, they sell things or they are into one business or the other, they are always carrying it on their head and running. You want to, for instance, in FCT, you want to move car wash people from the town. What other alternative have you provided? There are a lot of empty lands around some of the big drainages and all of this. Have you gone there to say, okay, let's clear this aspect, let's put it in place, let's fence it and put somebody here? Any young man who wants to wash car can come here and pay 500 naira a day and then wash car throughout the day and go. Or even pay 500, wash, takes 60%, deposit 40% here. So that the state will make money and the individual will be employed. And while that person is washing car there, he cannot be recruited to go and bring human parts. While that person is washing car there, he cannot be recruited for any form of violence. While that person is washing car there, the person will not be thinking of rape somewhere. And you see, some of them will actually do this thing, go to school, get better skills, and get better job. Why are we always doing things in a destructive manner?
All right, so now looking at what you've just said now, looking at the different bodies that we have out there. For example, customs, they have their own set of policies. Immigration has their own set of policies. The CBN has their own set of policies. Basically, any organization that has to do with handling any form of trade at any point in time. Now, with all of these different policies coming from these different establishments, is there a need to bring them together and harmonize them to sort of make that trade for business people out there easier? Mr. Adefolare.
I think in the past 4-5 years, this government have been trying to do that, but the issue is there is still conflict of interest among those institutions. Those agencies are still having that conflict of interest in the sense that they are looking at it from the political angle instead of looking at the economic dividends to Nigerians. That's why you're having that Custom will bring out its own policy, CBN will bring out its own policy, Median is there, Nigerian Youth, Minister of Youth is there with several youth fund for youth, and all these things are coming together to intervene in the economy, either to empower the women, the youth, and the rest of them. But they are not doing it in a coordinated way. Just like Mr. Wilson was trying to point out, a comprehensive way to onboard all this particular policy to come in a way that can be harmonized so that Nigerians can have a feel of it. Not Nigerians that are into politics, because the majority of these things is just boiled down to political affiliation. Because at the end of the day, if you don't belong to a particular party, if you don't belong to a particular group, you don't get this kind of intervention. But as you have rightly said, how can we onboard them to bring them to the fore that it can be a comprehensive, one way, one channel that all these policies can now be channeled across board, is to ensure that we have a coordinating group or a coordinating head of all this government intervention program. If we don't do it, it will not be good for us. But we suggest that coordinating must be in a way that in this aspect is that the monetary policy and the fiscal policy, that's what we are talking about. How we can harmonize in a way that it can now gel down well for supporting businesses, not just small businesses, including big businesses and the rest of them. And let me quickly add, the issue of multiple tax that we are having in Nigeria, it is because at the local government level, at the state level, the operation of taxes, how to collect taxes is being given to individuals. That's why we're having challenges. Government at the state level, even at local government, segment area to be collected in terms of tax to different of their political affiliate and political friend. That's why I see that multiple tax, AMAC will come today, FCT will come today. In Nasarawa State, in other state, you see local government will come and collect today. The state government will come and collect today. The federal government will come and collect. These are the reasons that are bringing about that multiple tax challenges. And we hope with the coordinating head through this policy dissemination, it will be better for Nigerian SMEs in long run.
All right. So I'd like to take a look at the macroeconomic space. You know, inflation right now is on the rise, even though the CBN has come out to say that, okay, the 15.63% hike that we have now is temporary and transient. But I guess in this situation, we just have to wait and see how things eventually play out and hope that it actually does go down. But as I was saying, inflation is on the rise. Of course, this will definitely affect the cost of manufacturing. And we know how this is going to end up. It's the final consumer that's going to end up taking the brunt of it, because their purchasing power is definitely going to be eroded. And these are not the only challenges that the business sector is facing. There's also infrastructural issues, there's power issues, and so much more. Now, what strategies does the government or, responsible bodies need to put in place in order to ensure the growth of SMEs in this country? And also, what does it mean for Nigerian businesses today, looking at the current situation? And do you finally, do you see it improving anytime soon? Sorry, I've thrown a lot of questions at him all at once. Yes.
It's all right. I will do my best to take them one after the other. First of all, we talked about the issue of inflation. Of course, you have answered that yourself. It's going to go down to the final consumer, because of course you carried nobody does business for social welfare. It's a profit issue. Then if you look at the issue of what is the government doing, or what can they do to ease this impact, basically much of the inflation is coming from the fact that we have too much money chasing few goods. So the one very simple way to attack it is to increase productivity. And how do you increase productivity? Get a lot of people to get involved in the production process. That now takes us back to the SME issue that we were just talking about, where our agencies are shutting down people who can contribute in trickles to the productivity of the economy. So we need to come up with policies that encourage production, that encourage productivity in all these spheres, at all levels, no matter the size. All right? And like he has rightly pointed out, to do that, you need a platform, then you need to disburse your intervention to the right people. And you need to have a growth strategy for these people. Carry them by hand, help them grow to where they can stand and start supporting the economy. All right? Then, if you look at the activities of this government since their inception, they have been talking about agriculture, they have been talking about diversification, they have tried to increase productivity locally. Some times ago, they shut the border at certain points, and then, about rice and all of that. Rice is improving, okay? The automobile policy is also working. I think we now have up to 15 different assembly companies here. And I think that the business of one of the locally manufactured vehicles is also booming, because the federal government have been buying from them and all of that. If we drive these policies more purposively, consciously, and holistically, I think that we are going to have a new story in the shortest period of time. However, we are in 2022. By May next year, we have a new president. What will be the policy thrust of that president? And often than not, we place so much emphasis on the federal, and we don't talk about the other two tiers of the government, vis-a-vis the state governments and the local governments. What are their roles in this? In fact, they are closer to the people. And as long as governors are playing politics with the policies of the federal government based on party line divide or ethnic sentiment, religious sentiment, and political sentiments, we are not going to go anywhere. Because the people who structured our government in this way had the mindset that every component of the government would do its part for the system to work. When one component drops the ball, the entire system will drop the ball.
All right, we don't have a lot of time, so let me throw out my last question to Mr. Adefolarin. Yes, so taking a look at the environment that we have, it's one thing to create that environment for businesses to actually grow, but are we really creating that environment where entrepreneurs could be as freely as creative as they would like to be?
Let me quickly say this. The environment is being created, but it is created in lopsided. The concentration of the federal government, even some state government, even local government as it is looking at the big companies. The smaller ones are not being considered. And the other things that they want to do for the smaller ones, it is also ending up, although Mr. Wilson can help us with categorization of the SMEs, we have SME, we have MSME, we have even microscope SME. So the concentration of the federal government and the state government has always been on the big ones. They don't look at the microscope SMEs, that the wheelbarrow pusher, by the roadside of the house, by the corner of the house, by the corner of the street, who are selling.
Matter too.
They matter too. And these are the ones that really take people out of the unemployment that we're talking about. We have been hearing stories. I've read so many stories from Daily Trust newspaper about a graduate frying akara, a graduate frying buns, a graduate frying doing kose and the rest of them. These are the people that the SME, the government intervention is supposed to focus, but they focus on the big ones. And these big ones have a very technical and a very wrong way of doing things. They may collect the fund from the government, they may only put half of it into the business and take the half of it out. That's why we are seeing that some big companies are falling. That's why we're having issue with banks and the rest of them from the loans that are collected. Because when they collect the money from the government, they only divert half of it and put half of it in the business. At the end of the day, become an issue. But we look forward that the government can see a reason to have a holistic, comprehensive, and as I put it, coordinating way of bringing all these SMEs together, just as me and Mr. Wilson have said, so that we can have a future for these businesses in Nigeria.
All right, so that being said, yes, we have come to the end of our show for today. I don't think there's anything that I need to add to that because, yes, we do need to foster that environment that allows businesses to grow, that allows entrepreneurs to be creative. This is a discussion that we'll always have until there's a change. Like I said at the beginning of the show, we do need that change. Like I earlier said, 48% is what the SME sectors actually contribute to Nigeria's GDP. So that's a lot. We need to see them grow. All right, so we've come to the end of our show for today, and I would like to thank my guests in the studio. Thank you so much, Mr. Wilson, and thank you so much, Mr. Adefolarin, for being a part of the show. And to our viewers out there, thank you so much for watching. Don't forget to follow us on our social media platforms. You can find us on Instagram, Facebook, and YouTube. Just look us up at Trust TV News. Well, once again, my name is Chamun Dabeng. Come back again for more Business Daily. Let's talk numbers.